just like yours, has been marked by miracles. Everybody in this room, if you're still standing, you've been through some stuff. Everybody in this room has been through some stuff. And it's a miracle that you are here. It's a miracle that you survived. It's a miracle that you keep going. It's such a miracle for me. Let me just tell you, my mother and father never married, and they were only together once in their life. One time. My father, when I asked him, how did that come to be, he said, your mother was wearing a poodle skirt. That's my mother, wearing a poodle skirt. Those of you who are too young to know, it's like one of those big wide skirts and you turn around and you can see what's under there. And I want to see what's up under there. It's so romantic. So my father and my mother had sex one time, and at the time I was born in 1954, I was considered an illegitimate bastard child, an unwanted child. I grew up with my grandmother. This is me at 3 years old, and my mother moved to Milwaukee, although I think at some point she was in Mississippi. I don't remember, I see this photograph, I don't remember this moment at all. I don't remember my mother ever being in this house. This was my grandmother's house. That's my little doll on the ground, and I remember the trees and the swing on the front porch. That's why today I love swings and front porches. And at the time I was living with my grandmother, which I lived with my grandmother until I was 6 years old, I used to always dream, because we lived in the shotgun house, and everything on this little acre of land, my grandmother sustained herself. So as a young girl, I would go out and I would draw water from the well, and I would help milk the cows, and I would feed the hogs, and we would do all of our vegetables. And at the time, I just wanted some green giant peas, and not peas that you're growing in the garden, so life has gone full circle. But at the time I was growing up in this wooden house, I used to have dreams of what it would be like to be in a brick house. So later in my teenage years, I got sent to live with my father in Nashville, and this was the house I pulled up to when I was 14 years old. It's about 1,100 square feet. I could put that whole house in my living room right now. But at the time, this brick house was the dream that I held for myself, to be able to live in a brick house. Dreaming dreams and holding visions, even when I didn't know what that was. And so, when I was in Baltimore, working for those 8 years, trying to figure out what my career path was going to be, I had a television producer by the name of Arlene Weiner. Arlene was married to a famous attorney in Baltimore at the time. And actually, they're still married, Arlene and Arnold Weiner. And when I went to Arlene Weiner's house, I think I was about 23, 24 years old. It was the first time I'd ever been to a rich person's house. And I pulled up in the driveway, and in the driveway there was a Mercedes, a Corvette, and a BMW. I'd never heard of such a thing. And Arlene is working? What is she doing working? She got 3 cars in the driveway. And went inside Arlene's house, and inside the house, looking out from Arlene's kitchen, I remember seeing in the yard 6 trees. And I thought, not only is she rich with these cars, this is what rich white people do, they get trees. If I ever get me some money, I'm gonna get me some trees. I'm gonna have 6 trees in my yard looking out the kitchen window. This is a dream. I dreamed, I had this idea, just a vision, just planted it inside my heart, 23, 24 years old. Do you know, last year, I was standing in my kitchen in Santa Barbara, and I looked out the window, and there were the trees. There were this 6 trees, right outside the kitchen window. I was making tea, and I thought, wow, there are the 6 trees I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't thought about it since I was like 23, 24 years old. I went outside in the yard, and I'm gonna show you all my front yard. And I took this picture, and this is my front yard.
We can see it.
And I share that picture with you because I could dream of the six, the life force, the divine intelligence, the creator of all things. God, by all the names in the universe, can dream a bigger dream for you.
Yes.
So, I was so amazed at these trees in the yard, like, wow, I dreamed of the six. I wonder how many trees I actually do have. I started to count the trees, and I got tired. I got tired of counting my own trees, so I hired a tree counter. Because that is what you can do when you are rich. You can hire yourself a tree counter. Google it, tree counters. They will count your trees. 3,671 trees in my front yard. In my front yard. I could only dream of the six. I couldn't imagine that. I could dream of the six. So today, I want you to plant the seed of your dream. And hold that dream and that vision inside yourself. Because what I know for sure is that Amazing Grace is my life theme song. And Amazing Grace has brought me safe thus far. You gotta know what yours is. You know my struggles. I don't know all of yours, but I do know if you're over 25, you have some. And what I also know, that often what holds us back is what we're holding on to. So anybody here today who's holding on to something that's holding you back, my prayer is that you release and forgive. And forgiveness is not condoning what has happened to you, not saying that it was okay what has happened to you, but forgiveness is giving up the hope that the past could have been, would have been, should have been any different. It's gone. It's over. It's done. You have to forgive it to move on. You cannot continue to thrive unless you forgive. So let me tell you this. I thought I was free until my mother passed away at the end of November 2018. My mother and I have had a really complicated relationship. I think those years of her moving away and not being a part of my life in those early years, obviously, now we know, that plays a big role. So my story is, I was sent to live with my mother, whom I really didn't know, at the age of 6. Nobody told me why. I'd been sleeping in the bed with my grandmother in that shotgun house all of my life, and then suddenly one day, I am removed from that home, sent to Milwaukee to live with my mother. I walk in, my mother is living in a house with a woman named Mrs. Miller. And Mrs. Miller is not a white woman, but she could pass for white. And so my mother had another daughter at the time, who's since passed away. And I could see that Ms. Miller had a connection to this other half-sister of mine. And Mrs. Miller, I could feel, did not want me in the house because of the color of my skin. I had never been in a situation ever where I'd encountered racism or colorism, but I knew instantly that the reason why I wasn't going to be allowed into the house was because she didn't like the color of my skin. And so that first night away from home, the first time in my life not sleeping in my grandmother's bed, Mrs. Miller told my mother that I could not come in the house. And my mother did not stand up for me. My mother didn't say, she's my baby, let her sleep with me. My mother says, well, you're gonna have to stay out here on the porch. And there was this like little porch, closed-in porch, but you could see through it, and I was terribly afraid Because again, it's the first night I've not been with my grandmother. But something inside me, the voice that I hold, that I know everybody in this room holds, said, you're gonna be all right. So I prayed that God would surround me with angels so I wouldn't be scared. And I slept out on that porch for I don't know how long until we moved from Mrs. Miller's house. But I never forgot that my mother didn't say, let my baby come in here. So there began this complicated relationship that over the years, I did the thing that I thought you were supposed to do. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel because I wasn't feeling anything. I just did the thing. So I bought my mother a house, I bought her a car, I retired my mother, I retired my father, I gave them lots of money, I did all the things that I thought you were supposed to do. And my mother, I felt, always saw me not as a daughter, but as a means to an end for herself. So that complicated our relationship, particularly after I became a well-known person. But I tried to do the thing that the Bible says. The Bible says, honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days will be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. So that was my goal, and my diary has been filled over the years, like, what is the honor? What does honor look like? What does that look like? What am I supposed to do? And so when my mother became ill, in 2010, a woman showed up at our door who claimed to be my mother's daughter and my sister. Not only claimed to be, but was proven to be. She's here today. Pat's in the audience.
Woo!
So Pat shows up and says, I believe that you're my mother. And she'd waited 3 years knowing that it was my mother, but my mother refused to say that she had given up a daughter. My mother was like, no, if I had a child, I would know it. I didn't have no child, which was very hurtful to Patricia. So when my mother became ill last year, it was Patricia who had come home who ended up being the one to take care of my mother.
Woo!
Patricia stood in the gap and got the medications and managed the nurses and was there for everything. And I remember Pat calling me one day saying, I keep doing all these things for her, and I went to Costco, and I got her all this stuff, and she didn't even say thank you. I go, I bought houses and cars, and you think you're gonna get a thank you from Costco? Girl, this is who she is. So last November 2018, I get a call from Pat. I'm in Santa Barbara, Pat's in Milwaukee, taking care of our mother, and Pat says, you better get here quick. She just hugged me. I said, really? She says, oh, and it was a real hug too. It was such a hug that the nurse said, I'm praying for your family. So I go home. We're gonna arrange hospice care. A lot of you in this room know what that's all about. Arranging hospice care, getting the oxygen machines, getting to bed, moved in, all that. My mother still is very coherent. And I had a speaking engagement with Michelle Obama. She was doing her book in Chicago. So I went to Milwaukee, I went to Chicago, I went back to Milwaukee, and I knew that we're nearing the end. And I knew that I needed to do the thing that I talk about doing. I knew I needed to say out loud, I forgive you. I know I needed to clear the air. I needed to put the nail where it belonged in this relationship. I needed closure. But I could not think of one thing to say. I'm ashamed to say that as one who's interviewed thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of people every day, when it came to what to say to my own mother, I didn't know what to say. So I started reading the hospice manual. And in the hospice manual, they say, talk about all the things you did together, the moments you shared.
Oh.
And I honestly cannot think of one. I can't think of one that didn't involve struggle or me feeling put down or feeling like I didn't belong or that you didn't want me. I couldn't think of one. And then it says, share the things this person has taught you. I couldn't think of one. As I'm reading the hospice manual, I think, how pitiful is this? Nobody would believe this is happening to me. So I leave, and I know that it's going to be the last time. And I still can't think of how to close it. So I say, I'm gonna go now. See ya. She says, okay, bye. So I leave and I go to someplace else. I have to speak in Boston, and I'm going to do the speaking engagement in Boston. I finish, it's snowing. I have someplace else to be in California, and I think in the voice inside me, the one we all have, is not even whispering, it's like knocking upside my brain, saying, what a hypocrite. What a hypocrite you are. Because if anybody else was going through this, you would say to them, go back and close it. So I got on the plane again and went back to Milwaukee for the third time that week. I walk into the house, my mother's sitting in the room, it's 87 degrees. Old people apparently like heat. It's literally, I look at the thermostat, it's 87 degrees, and she's watching Steve Harvey in a loop and Days of Our Lives. And I just sit in the room with her, offering water, ice chips, watching Steve Harvey, watching the whole thing. I still can't think of anything to say. I go to bed that night in the house. I pray to God to help me to come up with something to say. And I wake up that morning and I accidentally hit my phone, and on the phone was Mahalia Jackson singing Precious Lord. And I have this idea to call my friend Wentley Phipps, who is a baritone gospel singer, singing. And I say, Wentley, would you mind singing to my mother? He sits at his kitchen table and he sings, Precious Lord. Take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I am tired, I am weary, I am worn. Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home. And I can see that there's an opening there. I can see that it touched something. And Wentley says, I'm praying for you and your family. And what I'm asking God is for no fear, just peace. No fear, just peace. So I said to my mother afterwards, I said, did you like that song? Yes, I like the song. Are you afraid of anything? And she said, no, I'm not afraid. I said, are there people you want to see on the other side? Are there loved ones you want to see? And she said, I want to see my mother. And I said, I believe she's going to be there for you. And my sister Pat comes into the room, and she says, we're here for you. We are your daughters. And I say to my mother these words, I know that when you were 17 and you had this baby, and everybody said, that child is a bastard child. That child is an illegitimate child. What's Benita gonna do with that child? Can you believe the disgrace they're bringing on this family? This illegitimate child out of wedlock. That lots of people told you to get rid of this child. Lots of people told you to give me up, and lots of people told you they knew a woman down the street who could take care of an abortion. And you refused, and you kept this child. And I want to thank you for keeping this child.
Amen.
I want to thank you, because many days I thought I needed a different kind of mother. And I know now that God gave me exactly the mother I needed to be who I am. And my sister Pat said, and yes, please have no guilt, only peace that you gave me away. Don't worry about giving me away, because Mama, I came home. And now we are here for you and your transition. And we are offering you nothing but peace. Nothing but peace. No fear. And do you know that the liberation that came from that moment, I am free. I am free. I am free. I am free. Nothing left to be said. Nothing left to be said. Nothing I'm holding in my heart about what woulda, coulda, shoulda happened. Everybody in this room could have been raised differently. And what I know is your parents did what they knew how to do. And if they'd known better, they would have done better. And even if they didn't do better, it's all right because it made you who you are right now. You are who you are because of every little and big thing that happened to shape your worldview. And we are here today because we all long to let go of the past and to move ourselves in a different direction. And I am telling you that is possible for every person in this room. Everyone who's come here today knows that there is something more than where you have been and what you've been doing. We all long to be well and to find balance. We all want more. And I'm here to tell you that whatever has happened to you in your life was also happening for you. And that there isn't one thing in your life that has happened that has been wasted. I was born out of wedlock, illegitimate child, sexually abused, sexually assaulted, growing up in poverty. Every time someone knocked me down, I was building strength. Every time somebody let you down, you were building strength. Every time you thought you lost your way, you lost control. Every time the doctor said, yes, it is cancer, this is what was happening, you were building strength, and strength times strength times strength times strength equals power. Woo! So look at how powerful you are. This is what I know for sure. That the forces of life, by all the names we call God in the universe, is ready and waiting to move your life in a new direction. And you get to decide, and you get to decide with a clarity of vision and purpose that sets your life on a new course. So what is it you will do with this one wild and precious life, says Mary Oliver. The fact that you are here means that you are ready to be well. So claim it, Denver. Don't waste a minute wondering if there is more to your life. Define it. Do as the carousel women did. Manifest it. Manifest it. Keyword for me, manifest your trees. What is your tree dream? Are you ready to activate your vision? Say it out loud with me and claim your power. I can.